Everyone is talking about the case, the courtroom, the verdict, the protests, the headlines. But almost nobody is asking one uncomfortable question. What happens to a teenager's mental health when the whole world turns against them? Not the legal question, not the moral debate, the human one. Because here is what we know for a fact. Not from opinion, not from commentary, but from his own mother's words at a press conference. His mental health is deteriorating. Day by day, we have endured death threats. That was Kayla Hayes, Carmelo Anthony's mother, speaking publicly just weeks after the incident that would change her son's life forever. And today, we're not here to debate the case. We're here to ask the question the media keeps skipping over. What does it do to a young person, psychologically, to become the center of a national firestorm at 17 years old? Stay with me, because the answer matters, not just for him, for every teenager. Let's start with the facts. On April 2nd, 2025, a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas, a normal, routine school sporting event, turned into a national tragedy when 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony stabbed 17-year-old Austin Metcalf during a confrontation in the bleachers. Metcalf died from his injuries. Witnesses described an argument that escalated rapidly, starting with a dispute over a team tent during a rainy meet, leading to a physical altercation, and ending in seconds with a fatal stabbing. Anthony was arrested, charged with first-degree murder, and his case quickly exploded, not just locally, but nationally. Social media amplified the story with intense racial framing. Protests erupted. His family received death threats. His father took a leave of absence from work. In June 2026, after a closely watched trial, Anthony, now 19, was convicted of murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison. And through all of it, through every headline, every protest, every viral post, one thread kept getting lost in the noise. A teenager's mind was unraveling in real time, and almost no one stopped to talk about it. What does it actually feel like to be 17 and suddenly the most hated name in America? Let's talk about something that psychology research has studied for decades, and that this case illustrates in one of the most extreme ways possible. The human brain is not fully developed until around age 25. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision-making, impulse control, and processing consequences, is still literally under construction during the teenage years. Now imagine that same incomplete, still developing brain being exposed to millions of people calling for your harm, news cameras outside your home, death threats to your siblings, a national debate treating you as a symbol rather than a person, months of waiting, not knowing your fate. That is not a hypothetical. That was Carmelo Anthony's reality from April 2025 onward. When a person, especially a young person, is subjected to prolonged public shaming, psychologists have identified a well-documented cascade of mental health effects: hypervigilance and chronic anxiety. The nervous system enters a near-permanent state of threat response. Every sound, every notification, every stranger becomes a potential danger. Sleep becomes nearly impossible. Emotional shutdown and withdrawal. As a survival mechanism, the mind can begin to go numb, disconnecting from emotion entirely. This often looks like someone being okay on the surface, while deteriorating internally. Identity erosion. When the entire world reduces you to one moment, one headline, one act, the psychological damage to your sense of self can be profound, particularly for a teenager still forming their identity. Anticipatory dread. Living under a legal case for over a year, not knowing your sentence while the public watches, produces a type of chronic psychological stress that researchers compare to living with a terminal diagnosis. Carmelo Anthony's mother did not use clinical language, but when she said his mental health is deteriorating, she was describing exactly this. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. We live in a culture that believes strongly in accountability. And rightfully so. A life was lost. A family is grieving. Justice was sought and served. But somewhere in our national conversation, we've developed a blind spot. We've decided that the people we hold responsible for terrible things, especially young people, somehow don't deserve a conversation about their mental state. And that is a dangerous idea. Mental health doesn't pause for controversy. It doesn't check your court case before it starts deteriorating. Young people in high-stakes legal situations, facing years of pretrial stress, public condemnation, and uncertainty, are at significantly elevated risk for depression, post-traumatic stress,